quite a few guys out there who, when you look at how much they've made, really makes you scratch your head wondering how in the world.
$52 million in guarantees. Then that's up the alley in terms of where I think Joe Flacco has earned the right to make that kind of money.
You already know more or less how much guys like Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers have earned, but you would be absolutely shocked to learn the career earnings of several of the more average players throughout the league. Now, before we get started, a hat tip to spot track for the numbers regarding player contracts and career earnings. Joe Flacco. Flacco has done very well for a merely average quarterback who has never once been named to a Pro Bowl. The longtime Baltimore Ravens starter is 6th among active NFL players in career earnings. Let's just say he wouldn't be anywhere close to $171 million in career earnings if it weren't for that historic postseason performance that led Baltimore to a Super Bowl title during the 2012 season. After leading the Ravens to a Super Bowl 47 championship, Flacco was handed a mammoth 6-year contract extension worth a cool $120.6 million. But that's what winning a championship and Super Bowl MVP honors will do for you. In 2016, Flacco signed a new pact with the Ravens, a 3-year deal worth $66 million. He would end up losing his starting job to rookie Lamar Jackson in the midst of the 2018 season, and the Ravens subsequently dealt Flacco to the Denver Broncos. Flacco is now a journeyman backup at this stage of his career, happily taking short-term deals wherever he's wanted. Hey, good on him for maximizing his earnings though. That right there is how you do it, kids. Gerald McCoy. McCoy hasn't been a superstar for a while now. His last Pro Bowl season came in 2017 when he was still a member of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Because he hasn't been a game changer for a few years now, that could explain why we were stunned to learn that he has made $122.118 million for his career up to this point. Not to mention that during his prime years, you didn't see defensive players make that type of money that they earn today. The 6-time Pro Bowl defensive tackle first struck it rich when he signed a massive rookie deal worth $63 million in 2010. $35 million of it was guaranteed. In the midst of the 2014 season, Tampa handed McCoy a lucrative 7-year contract extension worth $98 million, with $51.5 million of it coming in guaranteed money. That was the biggest contract ever for a defensive tackle. Of course, McCoy didn't play out the duration of the deal as Tampa Bay released him in the 2019 season. He subsequently had brief stops with the Carolina Panthers, Dallas Cowboys, and Las Vegas Raiders. So, what if we told you that through the 2021 season, McCoy had more in career earnings than J.J. Watt, Khalil Mack, Patrick Peterson, and Adrian Peterson? Yeah, shocking, we know. Joe Haden. The former Cleveland Browns and Pittsburgh Steelers standout has been a very good corner throughout his career, but he was never in that elite class with the likes of Darrelle Revis, Patrick Peterson, and Richard Sherman. So you'll be shocked to learn that Haden has garnered, drumroll please, $121.471 million in career earnings up to this point. That is not bad at all for the 3-time Pro Bowler. Like Gerald McCoy, Haden scored a fancy rookie deal as a 2010 draftee. The Browns gave him a 5-year contract worth $50 million. Just over half of it, $26 million to be exact, was guaranteed. In the 2014 offseason, Cleveland gave Haden a 5-year deal worth $68 million. But he wasn't able to play out the entirety of the deal as the Browns cut Haden before the start of the 2017 season. Haden then signed with the AFC North rival Steelers on a bargain 3-year contract worth $27 million. And ahead of the 2019 campaign, he was given a 2-year contract extension worth $22 million. So if you were stunned by Gerald McCoy's career earnings, well, Haden is just a hair below him. He has locked up more money in player contracts than several active players who are locks for Canton. Hey, hat tip to his agent for all the great work he's done. Justin Houston. There was a time where Justin Houston was among the NFL's elite pass rushers, but the guy hasn't been a Pro Bowler since 2015. Furthermore, he has reached double-digit sacks just once since that 2015 campaign. But even if he's been past his prime for a few years now, Houston hasn't had a problem cashing in. Through 2021, the former Kansas City Chiefs star placed 28th in career earnings for active players at just under $97 million. Among active defensive players, Houston is 9th in career earnings, and the 8 guys above him are all seemingly locks for the Hall of Fame. Von Miller, Calais Campbell, J.J. Watt, Khalil Mack, Patrick Peterson, Fletcher Cox, Chandler Jones, and Aaron Donald. Kevin Zeitler. Among active offensive linemen, who sits 8th in career earnings? Well, that would be Mr. Zeitler, who's earned $73.614 million for his career. The 7 men ahead of Zeitler are Trent Williams, Tyron Smith, David Bakhtiari, Lane Johnson, Dwayne Brown, Ronnie Stanley, and Jake Matthews. That is a handful of Hall of Famers with multiple All-Pro and Pro Bowl nods between them. But Zeitler, now on his 4th NFL team, has never earned a Pro Bowl or All-Pro selection. So making north of $70 million in career earnings is pretty spectacular, all things considered. In 2017, the Browns gave Zeitler a $60 million deal over 5 years. However, he was sent to the Giants 2 years later in the blockbuster Odell Beckham Jr. trade. Zeitler was then released by Big Blue after 2 seasons and then signed a 3-year, $22.5 million deal with the Baltimore Ravens. Just one more contract after this should push the longtime guard to over $80 million in career earnings. So, hey, stay tuned. DeMarcus Lawrence. Lawrence looked like he had the makings to be a perennial Pro Bowler back in 2017 when he broke out with 14.5 sacks. A year later, he posted 10.5 and helped the Cowboys win the NFC East Division crown. Unfortunately, it's been all downhill for Lawrence ever since. It's already easy to forget that once upon a time, more specifically in April of 2019, Lawrence signed a whopping 5-year contract extension worth $105 million. Luckily for Jerry Jones and company, Lawrence has selflessly restructured his contract on plenty of occasions. Despite the reworkings of his deal though, Lawrence has still done pretty well for himself with $87.349 million in career earnings. That is certainly a lot of money for a guy with only 2 double-digit sack seasons on his resume. But Jerry isn't a bad guy for rewarding his players with loyalty. If Lawrence could just get even remotely close to playing like a Pro Bowler again, he could score 1 or 2 more contracts that push him past the $100 million mark in career earnings. You know, not that he's done bad for himself up to this point. Jerry Hughes. The key for Hughes making so much money, in a word, longevity. The TCU product has never been anything close to a superstar, but being above average for more than a decade is all it takes to rack up tens of millions of dollars. The Indianapolis Colts 2010 first-round pick never put it together with the team that drafted him, but Hughes carved out quite a career with the Buffalo Bills. He was traded there in 2013 and provided steady production, posting 53 sacks and 16 forced fumbles over 9 years there. Hughes has secured enough lucrative contracts to garner $79.263 million in career earnings through 12 seasons. The big one was his $45 million pact with Buffalo in 2015. He also got a shiny 2-year $10 million deal from the Houston Texans in 2022. So 1 or 2 more contracts after this will have him pushing for $90 million in career earnings. Not too bad. Chase Daniel. Through the 2021 season, Daniel had made 70 in-game appearances, but only 5 of those were starts. In all, he had 261 career pass attempts for 8 touchdowns and 7 picks. And that has somehow made him just a tad under $40 million in career earnings for the journeyman backup. More specifically, $39.828 million. In the 2016 offseason, the Philadelphia Eagles surprised many by giving Daniel a 3-year contract worth $21 million, even though he was strictly going to back up Carson Wentz. Subsequent contracts, including a 2-year $10 million deal from the Chicago Bears and a 3-year pact worth $13.05 million from the Detroit Lions, pushed Daniel into the surprising career earnings territory. Yeah, everyone wants to be the star quarterback of their football team, but life can be pretty good if you spend more than a decade as an understudy. And hey, Daniel also owns a Super Bowl 44 championship ring from his days in New Orleans. You see, kids, you can still climb the mountaintop without putting in all that necessary work. And just as importantly, if not more importantly, you can set your family up for decades. That right there is the Chase Daniel story. Jason Pierre-Paul. JPP has certainly had an interesting career. In his early years with the New York Giants, he was one of the game's premier pass rushers, and Pierre-Paul was vital in helping Big Blue upset the New England Patriots in Super Bowl 46. JPP earned Pro Bowl nods in 2011 and 2012, but his production with the Giants was up and down over the next 5 years. He was traded to the Buccaneers in 2018, but he was often overlooked there because, well, Tampa just wasn't a very good football team. Then he turns back the clock and has a monster 2020 season and earns his first Pro Bowl nod in 8 years. JPP played a big role during the Buccaneers Super Bowl 55 championship season, earning ring number 2 in the process. But even with all that up and down play, Pierre-Paul has done very well for his bank account. He has made $102.542 million for his career, largely thanks to the $62 million deal that the Giants handed him in 2017. Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy G has been in the NFL since 2014. He's only been a full starter for 2 seasons in 2019 and 2021. The San Francisco 49ers reached the NFC Championship game in both those years, and they came within half a quarter of winning Super Bowl 54 during the 2019 campaign. Garoppolo made just 10 starts over his first 5 seasons. He was never going to overtake Tom Brady in New England. But after getting his chance to shine in San Francisco, injuries and inconsistent play prompted the 49ers to look elsewhere. They traded up to snag Trey Lance 3rd overall in the 2021 draft, all but ending the Garoppolo era 1 year later. So, in 8 NFL seasons, Garoppolo had 47 starts, 71 touchdowns, and 38 interceptions. Solid numbers, no doubt, but not exactly elite. However, thanks to that whopper of a contract the 49ers gave him in 2018, Jimmy G is already well past the $100 million mark in career earnings. In 2018, San Francisco handed Garoppolo a mega 5-year contract extension worth $137.5 million. Garoppolo stayed on the roster for the next 4 years, and he stood at $114.164 million in career earnings through 8 years. This is just another example of how much the quarterback market has jumped in recent years. Other non-superstar level QBs like Carson Wentz and Jared Goff subsequently got extensions worth more than $100 million after Garoppolo. You only have to be a slightly above average QB if you want to walk away with 9 figures in career earnings. And Garoppolo is still relatively young in quarterback years, so if he could just stay healthy, who knows how much more he can add to his bank account. But which NFL player's career earnings have shocked you the most up to this point? Join us in the comment section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton, and hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.